Hey guys, welcome back to Vince Vale Custom. So today I'm sharing with you a Apocalypse statue that I just finished up. It was produced by DXA Designs and it was sculpted by Sheridan Deuce. It's also from the Age of Apocalypse storyline. Now, I did one a while back. I think maybe I did two. I can't really remember. But he is a massive kid. It's a very bulky item. Weighs a lot. He's at least, I think about like 30 inches tall from the bottom of the base. So he is definitely one that you get a workout with lifting up and maneuvering and stuff like that. It's pretty much a similar paint up from the last one I did because I was requested to do something similar, but I did want to change it up a little bit. I like to make things a little bit different even if somebody wants me to paint it the same as previously, just to change it up and make things like at least separated. So the other thing too is I did do the paint up on the old one a few years ago, maybe like 2 years ago or so, something like that. And sadly, paint, some of those paints I can't get anymore because it seems like Duplicolor didn't really have those colors anymore. So I did change it up. The blue is pretty much similar to the blue I had in the past. What happened was I had an old can, but the can was so old that when I was spraying it, it wasn't really spraying correctly. So what I had to do is I had to do a special order of the same blue for the body. So I was able to at least get that color. But for the reds, the old can that I had, I couldn't find that color anymore from Duplicolor. So I actually used red metallic paint from the same one I did of the Age of Apocalypse Colossus statues I just recently painted up on my channel. So I used those reds, which actually worked out pretty well. Actually, it was easier to spray the airbrush with the reds on this than to actually mask it off and use a spray can from Duplicolor. So that worked out pretty cool. Did a little shading in the blue here and there. But I didn't go a little bit too crazy. Just some deep areas with a little bit of black and a dark blue. Only because I didn't really want to lose that pearlized blue on him, so I didn't go too crazy with the shading. His hands, his head is a Createx pearlized blue. Pretty much kind of went in there and changed it up. I did some washes in the hands and stuff. So as far as the reds, it might be kind of hard to see. I'll try to get in closer, but he's so tall on my booth. I have my camera stand as high as it can go without hitting the ceiling fan. So I just kind of show you as best as I can. So I did a little bit of weathering on the reds on his gloves and stuff, just to kind of separate that a little bit more. On his part right here with the boots, the last one I did, I was able to kind of like buff it down and did some kind of like a outclad chrome mirror look on it a little bit. But with this one, I wanted to change it up, so I actually used Tamiya chrome silver with a little bit of blue tint into it, and I kind of did something a little bit different on that. So like I say, I always try to make things a little bit different. Boots are sort of a new just type of red I did with some mahogany on there and stuff. Now as far as the base goes, I didn't have the same black gunmetal from previously. I found a different paint from Duplicolor, and it kind of changes it up. But what I did is I did some different colors in there. We'll get in a little closer with that. One thing I wanted to explain is when I did this one last time, I had a Duplicolor red oxide filler primer, and I love that red oxide for kits because it goes on really smooth and it bonds pretty well. But I don't like using a red oxide when I customize stuff because the gray primer is easier for me to use with red Aves on top of that so I can see what I'm doing. But for when I'm doing a kit like this, it's really good if I could get that red oxide. Now, Duplicolor had a big issue with not getting the chemicals for it. So basically I had to use Rust-Oleum primer on this because I used a Rust-Oleum red oxide primer on this. And that went on pretty well. But the only downside with Rust-Oleum is I don't mind using it, but the downside is the Rust-Oleum seems to take like a week to really cure. It doesn't cure like in a day. Like Duplicolor filler primer, you could spray it on this item, walk away in 20 minutes and come back and it's pretty much dry to the touch and you can start painting. Whereas Rust-Oleum, it seems to stay like wet a lot longer. So what I did is, once I got this item all ready, I kind of cleaned them up. I washed it all up with, alcohol. I got any kind of residue from fingerprints over the time it was sitting in the box to make sure it was all ready to go. And I did the Rust-Oleum primer on it, and I pretty much left it in the garage for a week. And it was good timing because the weather was really warm, and it let it really cure up pretty well until I was ready to do all the other stuff on here. Now, as far as the cape, this is a little bit different this time. I changed up the cape from previously because usually whenever I, do a paint up of a kit and then I got to do it again, I kind of learned from the previous kit what I should have done and what I could have done better, or would have made my life easier. So whenever I do multiples of a kit for people, by the time I do it the third or fourth time, I kind of have it down on how to run through it pretty fast. But usually the first time I do a kit, it's a lot of thinking. It's a lot of like, okay, how do I do this? How do I handle this? Blah, blah, blah. So his cape is pretty much kind of a light bluish, like baby blue cape. So what I did for this one was I did the a Rust-Oleum primer on it. And then what I did is I got a Rust-Oleum sky blue. And then once the sky blue dried, what I did is I went in with a sponge and I created a texture to make it weathered down here and a little weathered up around there. Because this is a very bulky cape and it's very hard to handle. So if you're painting on this side and you lay it down, if you're not careful, you can scrape paint. And then when you flip it on the other side and you try to do this side, if you're not careful, you can scrape paint. So I figured, instead of trying to make the cape perfectly clean and perfect, you know, shading and all that stuff, I figured let me texturize it, because if I did scrape it or you do kind of scuff it a little bit, it'll work with the cape being worn down and weathered. So that's kind of what I did with this one. Just to change it up and make it a little bit different. Because you figure if Apocalypse is walking around with a cape like this, the bottom of it is probably going to get kind of scuffed up and dirty and stuff. So that's kind of what I did with the cape on there. So that's kind of just something I had to do. As far as the face goes, pretty much straightforward. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer. Pretty much straightforward with the face on this, with the teeth. And if we go down here, we pretty much see the way this head is and everything. So the cape is magnetized into the back, but it's different the way I set it up. So there's a big magnet in the cape that keys right into the back of him. But what I did, instead of putting a magnet in the body, what I did is I put a big heavy steel rod in there, a square rod, so the magnet actually sticks to that steel rod. And then the shoulder pads and the head just click on. There was no reason to really have to magnetize that stuff, because it kind of goes down in an angle. So that's kind of what I did with that for magnetizing. But both hands are magnetized at the wrists. So these pieces do pop off over here. So this one is a lighter magnet because it's higher. Yeah, so there's a little bit of a magnet here and a magnet there, but there's a stronger magnet on this hand because it's facing down. So this one has smaller magnets that stay up, but this one has a little bit of a stronger magnet. Let's see what else. Pretty much. So yeah, so I pretty much just went ahead and did a lot of detailing on it. So the difference between this one compared to the past one is I weathered the red on him. So after I painted up the red metallic paint through the airbrush, which was the same red I used on the Colossus kits from AoA, I kind of weathered it a little bit more because I wanted to change it up from the previous one. I think the last one I did, I made it really, really clean and perfect, but this one's kind of more weathered, and I kind of weathered up on the shoulder pads too, but it's kind of hard to get all the way up there. I don't want to pull them apart because I do have a little bit of a touch-up I have to do, and I'll kind of come down to the base and explain that part. So when you put the paste together, and so you have the bottom part, you have the middle part, and you have the top part, and then you have these four stands here. So when you put all this stuff together and you slide the top down, it kind of scrapes these edges. So I have to touch these parts up. But the problem was I didn't want to pull the item down, pull the cape down, pull everything down, touch that up just for the video, because what I want to do is when I'm ready to pass this off to the clients, I want to break it all down one last time and put it in boxes to drive out to meet them. I don't want to break this down and have to put it together, because having these parts all over my floor again and breaking my back's a nightmare. But so what I did different with this one is I painted the bottom the gunmetal that I found. Well, it's not really gunmetal, it's kind of a metallic black paint. And then I painted this center of this like metallic blue just to change it up a little bit different. And then what I did is these pieces here are different gunmetal from Tamiya than this. And then what I did is I did a lot of this red trim up top here, around in here. And then after I did the trim, what I did is I airbrushed a very light misting of interference red on it. So at certain lights it gives it a little bit of a glow. And I did a lot of weathering on all this too, because I figured this base was kind of a little wonky. There wasn't really many, like, it wasn't really casting issues. It just seemed that, like, I think the factory might have manhandled it a bit, because when I first got it, there was like a lot of, like, you know, a little bit of like scuffing around the edges. So I figured, you know what, let's weather this one and make it a little bit different compared to what I did last time. And I did a lot of different metallics and stuff in around areas, a little bit of all the little details up inside, and I attached everything together. So that's pretty much what I did different with the base this time. So this base has a lot of details, and you could do a lot of variation to it and stuff. But I wanted to keep it black though and dark, because with a character like him being so bright blue and stuff, you don't want to do anything that brings your eyes down here. You want to keep your eyes going up here to him. So I tried to keep it black and red, but not go too crazy by making it brighter like gunmetal or bright silver or anything like that. But yeah, that's pretty much Apocalypse. I think this is the second one he did or the third one. I can't really remember. It's been such a long time. But he's a massive kit. He's heavy as all hell, bulky. Got a hell of a workout going in the garage, into the studio, in the garage, in the studio, lifting him just to get him up on here for the pictures and everything. So he's about, I don't know how much he weighs, but it's a lot. And he's about 30 inches tall from the bottom of the base. So he's a really, really big beast. But all in all, still a fun kit. Great storyline. It's probably the favorite X-Men storyline for me. I love the Age of Apocalypse storyline. So doing the AoA stuff is always a lot of fun because I really enjoy it. But a little bit of a different paint up this time, but still similar to the last one. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with some more videos.